Hello, welcome everyone. Greetings and welcome to another Tuesday night with a something different. We're getting out of football season, so we got to find new things to talk about. We're going to be more than just a football and Fortnite channel, and tonight is another one of those nights. So hopefully we sit back, have some laughs, pull up a beverage, if it's cold, get something warm, put something nice and smooth in it if you like it, whatever your fancy is, and just sit back and take a little journey with us around the country a little bit to some of our amazing places that we have visited along the way. It is really great to be back with y'all tonight, and I already see a lot of action in the chat. It's kind of funny. But let me bring on the other part of this team, the most valuable person on this team, the most beautiful person of this team, the one that works the hardest and does all the things for us on this team, the fabulous Mrs. Dadman Walken. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Yeah, I'm well tonight. I am kind of interested to see how this is going to turn out, but how are you tonight?
I'm doing okay. Excited to be here. Hopefully I remember all the crap we did in all these battlefields, but
it's relegated to crap now.
All the stuff, all the fun and exciting stuff we did.
Oh man. We had, oh my gosh.
We've had adventures.
I'll hold on to it, but you may have to censor me a little bit later, because I had a memory about a family experience up in Nashville, if you remember.
I'll see if I remember. But go ahead. Let's go ahead. Let's greet the chat.
All right. Yeah, because we got a lot of stuff to cover, folks. It is amazing what we've got here. So let us start off. At 1:00 last night, the great Wade Nation dude to say, let's get this banana monetized. Well,
yes, let's do that.
Yay. Let's get the 100 first for that 24-hour stream. Yes, thank you, Wade. Oh, so I got a feeling he's asleep now after being here that early. And a great historian himself, one of the greatest polar bears alive, the great Snortopoopas Cuber. Howdy, sir, and welcome. Welcome. That's an honor to have Snortopoopas in our chat, don't you think?
I believe I agree with you. I was going to say something complete. I don't know where my mouth was going at that one.
Well,
you are correct, sir. You are
pick
correct.
Pick a tink and here to be invisible. Yes.
Yes, we're so glad we can see your chat.
Yay. And the great Squeaka Mouse. Hey, folks. Hey, girl. Hey. How are you tonight?
Hi.
And like we had talked about a little bit in chat about the Christmas show, go back and watch last week's wonderful Christmas special where Squeaka was a great guest, and we shared so many pictures and fun times and went about 2.5 hours. That was crazy. But yes, check that out. And if you like Christmas, Sunday I did a show with Purple Valkyrie in a little different format. We went 1.5 hours. It was a lot of fun. I thought I lost Mark D in the chat. I thought people had fainted because they were laughing so hard. So definitely go check that one out if you haven't seen it yet. So, and Snortopoopa says, I was getting in the mood by watching a little North and South. Love that miniseries. And listening to some Civil War music. Yep. Some good stuff right there.
I'm going to tell a story. We used to take and play Civil War CDs, music CDs, while we were going on trips and stuff, especially to battlefields with the kids. And it's amazing how many Civil War songs our kids knew at that time. I don't know if they still know them, but yeah, the Civil War music is both sides of it is fun to listen to.
Absolutely, especially if you can go to reenactments, camps, things like that. Some local forts have once a month reenactors or people of the time frame. It's small scale events, but if you can ever get to go see, we'll talk about some of the events we've seen actually as we hit a couple of these places. And no, Snort, you will not scare other chatters.
No, you might unless they're SEALs, but if they're, I think just regular chatters will be okay.
Exactly. Just going through here and say, yeah, Squeak is back as me. Squeak, I think he's talking about Squeaka, famous for a victory at the Battle of Blueberry Muffin Hill.
General Squeakamouse.
All right, hey, that's
Well,
awesome.
can I put one of the
Let me say hi
chats?
to Geeky real quick.
Hey, Geeky.
Geeky. Oh, but no, this has got to be take precedence.
Oh, hi, Squeaka. Love you too. I'm blowing you hearts.
Oh, that's nice.
Well, can I put one of the chats up real quick? Because
I've
worked real hard at this. Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
So, Snorterpoopus, Merry Christmas to the Dadman clan. Well, I want to tell Snorterpoopus, Merry Christmas. I researched this. Merry Christmas, the Snorterpoopus Cuber celebration. If anybody doesn't know what that is, a group of polar bears is called a celebration. So I think that's so cool.
That's awesome.
And to Squeaka, the mischievous little mouse, is named perfectly because Merry Christmas to the Squeaka Mouse Mischief, which is what a group of mice are called.
A mischief?
Mischief. A mischief.
Wow.
Mischief of mice. Unless I looked it up wrong, but if I didn't, I still think it's cute and I'm standing by it. So that is all.
That'd be appropriate.
That is all. I will take the chat off now. Okay.
Oh, that's an awesome chat. Let me do it.
And Merry Christmas to everyone else that is here.
And hello to SPD girl, Jess. Thank you, as always, putting my links out there for me. Thank you so much. Great that you're here tonight. And I did say hi to Geeky, I think, right? Okay.
Yes,
hi, Geeky.
Yes.
Squeaka says hi to you, Geeky. Let me just see just going through here. I will come back to something real quick. Okay. What is I'm looking here? That's like, heck yeah, we are. Okay. Heck yeah, we are. Okay.
You are mischief of mice. I get it.
That's why you only want one at a time. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll do the evil laugh.
I want to go back to Snorterpoopus real quick, though. I love this.
Yeah.
Snorterpoopus says, I remember dragging an ex to the Petersburg battlefield and telling her all about the crater. She kept saying, do you really expect me to be excited about a big hole in the ground? Does that sound familiar?
Yes, it does.
Jeez.
Yes,
oh,
yes.
Man.
But I have learned to love going to the battlefields.
Hey, it was just not you. It's also my mother. You should have seen her the day we took a back, my dad and her and I went, and it was like, oh my gosh. Of course, folks, I'm the guy that wants to open and shut it. I'm on the USS Alabama in Mobile one day, and the missus and her whole damn family walks off the ship trying to leave my ass on the ship because they're all hungry for some reason.
Because we looked at the whole thing. We climbed all the way to the top and all the way to the bottom. We played in the gun turrets. We
did not get enough gun turret time, though. The gun turrets were awesome.
Anyway. They were. I do agree with you on that.
Oh boy!
And then didn't a hurricane come and do some major?
Actually, yeah, the hurricane at one point knocked it off.
A couple years later.
Yeah, I think it was. I don't remember which one it was, but yeah, it actually shifted it off of its mount and didn't capsize it, but it kind of just knocked it off at a weird angle.
Kind of rotated it, yeah.
So yeah, oh well. And Geeky says, "Laugh out loud. Ducks don't have a cute group name."
Oh, I got to see what's the name of ducks? Is it a gaggle? No, that's a gaggle of geese.
Well, we've got 6 people watching us here now, and I just want to say, if you're on YouTube, like the videos, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, share it out with others on Twitch. Make sure you follow us if you have.
A scheme.
Look at this.
Oh, interesting. I'm sorry.
Look at Jess. It wasn't enough good. Exactly. When you're on a big battleship, you want big guns and big gun time.
Well, you got to understand, this person took his children when they were little, and we would go to battlefields, and he would get off into the climbing up the terrain, and they would find big sticks and pretend they're guns, and he would show them and actually have them get on. Well, not have them, but they would get on the ground like they were shooting and like they were in the battle.
Mm-hmm.
He was very hands on, and I actually got a picture of him with one of the kids. Over a rock with their stick guns, acting like they were during the war. So it was really a lot of hands-on when he went to the fields. I will say that it was an experience that I don't think a lot of children get.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, it was definitely fun. It was a definitely fun thing. So let me hit a couple more of these. I think they're talking about the name out there.
it's a skein, a flock, or what was the other one? A skein is when they're flying. I think that's kind of funny.
Yep.
A skein, a flock, or a team of ducks. Those are the three most common ones.
Well, I sort of poopus. You and I got to go on a road trip one day. I think we probably not make it out of Mississippi. I think we probably get stuck in one place. But like snort poopus, this reminds me. We said it with Petersburg. It's not one of the battlefields we'll talk about tonight, but at Petersburg, Ambrose Burnside's troops, they shoved a lot of TNT and explosives under the Confederate entrenchments, trying to blow a hole up. But what they did was create a big crater, hence the word crater he used earlier. And it was really deep at the time, but it erodes. Like he says, we got to the crater and I told her it's eroded since then. But imagine a few thousand stuck in that hole and being mown down by muskets and cannon. And it sobered her up, because truly, when you see what happened, they did not go around the sides. They went down and in, and there's no way up. We also saw at Vicksburg, they had a similar incident over there, but I'll talk about that when we get to Vicksburg. So, let's get going and then say hi to the great Castle coming in. Hey, Castle. Glad you're here. Hey, better late than ever. Always good to see you, buddy. So, let us start with our Detour sign. All right.
Yay.
There's no gambling disclaimer this week. So, hey, join us on this little road trip. You're going to be amazed at what we've seen, what we've left out of here, too. At the end, I'll try to recap. But we're going to take a look at tonight. We're just going to kind of look at where we've been at a lot of places over the years. We'll show a few pictures here and there, but it's kind of being done in a tease towards the future. Probably starting February and after, to maybe do some more specific, maybe even shorter videos on specific battlefields, forts, things like that. So to get some other content here and do some stuff that's not just Fortnite and football. And hope y'all stay with us along the ride. So, and if you see anything, if you have questions, ask. I'll try to deal with it if I can. If I get something wrong, please point it out and I will try to correct it. So, love having you guys here. So let's get started. What we have here in the background is going to be our first slide of the night, which is what's kicking us off. This is a puzzle. When we visited Fort Pickens a few months back, something we bought in their gift shop.
Let's clarify that you got it, and I'm so proud of you for thinking and getting it, because it's such a cool puzzle.
All right. Well, thank you. But you also were the awesome one with your sisters putting it together in the heat in September in Florida at a campground. Yes. So while I was sitting in the air conditioned tent watching the Gators play football. So, all credit to you for that. Just a couple things I want to point out real quick, because the missus is going to take over a little bit here. It's a map of the whole theater, the Eastern and Western theaters. Where you see blue lines, it's concentrated major Union movements. For example, if you look in the middle here, if my cursor is seen right in here, like around Atlanta, and then you'll see the march south. This is Sherman's March to the Sea, down towards the Savannah area. And we're going to look at a couple forts in the Savannah area tonight. And then one up north up here in South Carolina that it's way out of the way. And then he moves up this way. Up in Kentucky, you have the two-pronged Kentucky offensive by the Confederates. Kirby Smith was on the eastern side. Braxton Bragg on the western side, up leading up to Perryville. But then the Confederates soon had to retreat, could not hold the state of Kentucky. So that being said, there's also different things on the map at a zoom in. They have different points about turning points of the war, certain events in 1862. The tide shifts in 1863 when you have the fall of Vicksburg. You have the Confederate defeat at Gettysburg. And in 1864, which is known as the beginning of the end, with the Confederates being pushed back out of Tennessee and then into the Atlanta area. This really tells a lot. Tells about
It's a very
engagement.
detailed puzzle.
Yeah, and it like around Washington and around Richmond, the battles around the capitals. Lots of legends. And then here, these at the bottom are all the battles, and you can see by year that we have here. And then, a lot of just general description too. Like up here, prisoners of war here is talking about Andersonville, which has actually become the National POW Museum. So really a lot of information in this map on different levels. It talks about the blockade runner routes. If you look at the blue around the coast, that's the Anaconda Plan, where the Union, the point was to choke off Union supplies from overseas to hamper the war effort for them. So with that, Mrs., why don't you go ahead and show what you were going to show with this?
We're going to talk about doing the puzzle some. This was a very fun puzzle to do, but very frustrating in the sense that I've started a tradition is that whenever we go camping, I bring a puzzle for us to do. And I have a table and we just set it out and anybody can come by and work on it anytime. The hard part about that is that we are camping and it's not in an RV. It is in a just a little covering. And the lighting is not always great and it's hot because we normally camp in the summertime. And so we were doing this puzzle. Most puzzles are not as detailed as this. So I'm going to take and share with you a real close-up of the puzzle so you can see how detailed this is. And we're trying to do this in limited light and all of us are old and we have bad eyesight. So here is a close-up of the puzzle. So if you see that, it's very detailed. I mean, very small words. And so that was really fun to have to deal with. And just the detail of it. Like you said, here's the lines and all his little stuff he talked about, but just the words and trying to get all the words. It was frustrating. We didn't have magnifying glasses. We didn't have proper light, but we got it done in a day and a half. So we are puzzle crazy people. And
not only did you do that, you deconstructed it in sections.
Yes.
Boxed it, brought it back home to reassemble.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. So that is the puzzle story. Anybody that likes doing puzzles, I actually just buy puzzles just to take them camping. So yeah, they're fun. But we also went on that camping trip. We also went to a fort, me and Dadman.
Absolutely.
So we will talk about that one, I think, in a little bit. But
so
anyway, that's my puzzle story. It was, it was a puzzle that we loved, but we also cursed.
I think
there
it's
was
more
a lot of, how, and there's a, like when we play Fortnite, there's a lot of, God damn it, whoever, person that shot me, this was, God damn it, where does this puzzle piece go?
Yeah.
So, a lot of that.
Yeah.
But we got it done.
Yeah, that was awesome. But hey, I did put a couple pieces together though.
Yes, you did. You did help.
Yeah. So, well, let's go ahead then. Let's get on with the show then. As we said, here's the map. You can take a line, but like the right down Alabama to the left is what's referred to as the Western Theater, and to the east, the right is the Eastern Theater.
Yeah.
like
Wait.
What?
I got to wait.
Uh-oh.
Yes, it is very puzzling. I'm sorry. I had to put that one
No,
up
I
there.
agree. You got it.
I'm sorry.
I
Now
didn't
you
see
now
that one.
now you can continue. I will remove it.
I got it. That Snortopoopas is right here. The Western Theater covered thousands of miles. Yeah, we felt it driving it. And you're going to see our excursions in the West. But in the East, it was like so heavily contained in Virginia within probably 100, 150 square miles and up into DC. It was a very, very confined area compared to the West. So absolutely. Um, well, I'm going to hit the Savannah in a minute. Um, but let's go on. Let's do our first.
Th-
That's a close up again
Let's
of the
do a
map.
disclaimer. They had a picture fold out of the actual puzzle
Oh
that
yeah,
wasn't the puzzle pieces. It's much more easier to read, so we went with that instead of the puzzle, so that you could actually kind of see some of the stuff that's on here. So this is not the puzzle. It is, we're
yeah,
it's the picture that they had in the puzzle.
right.
So
And a good point with that because you can see at least in this closer. Um, I'm getting it up in here. You can see the blockade runner routes at the ports, like between Jacksonville, Savannah, Charleston, where the harbors were. It tells you things like that. A lot of different detail. If you like maps, this one really, really is cool. So, and the puzzle was fun for you, I guess. So, well,
oh
let's see
yeah,
here.
no, it was fun.
Yes. Well, let us go, and we will. Let me remember to come back to the Savannah comments in a minute. But the
Okay.
first one we're going to start off is in Northeast Florida in Olustee. There's
Yeah.
actually for Florida was a big engagement. About an hour, just over an hour west of Jacksonville. It became a Confederate victory there. Involved a cannon on a rail car.
Mm-hmm.
Um, things like that happened. So there was Olustee. That's the first place we went many times for homeschool conventions. Homeschool days where they had show and tell. They showed about medic life, camp life, cooking, all this stuff. The families that came with them that followed the troops.
Oh,
But what was your? You know what our favorite was? What was our favorite group that tried to recruit us?
I will, but I want to say something first. I want to tell anybody, if you ever want to go during like a Civil War reenactment, if they have a homeschool day, you might not necessarily see all the shooting and the battles and stuff. But if you really want to get like into the life of during the time and stuff like that, I would recommend going to a homeschool day. Number one, if it costs anything to get in, usually it's a little cheaper, but just the educational stuff that they have is amazing. More so than I think during the regular time, but if you could go to the like a homeschool day and then go to the regular one to see a lot of the reenactments and the battles and stuff, I would highly recommend this. My favorite thing about Olustee is who was the favorite group to go in. If they tried recruiting us into the reenactors, can I tell them what group?
Oh yeah, go ahead and tell them the motto.
It was the uh cannon people. What are they called? The
Artillery.
artillery. And they said because they eat well and sleep comfortably.
And the
Basic.
motto was
I can't remember the motto.
death before discomfort.
Oh yeah, death before discomfort. That's right. Yes, because they said the other ones they go out and they get shot at and all that other stuff. They're kind of in
Yeah,
the background and they until they're needed, and then they go and do their thing. And then they go back.
absolutely. See, I like what Snortopoopa said here. I read about a guy who bought an oldish house somewhere in Virginia. He had a fake historical marker made that said, "On the spot, nothing ever." Yeah. Yes, exactly. They take their stuff seriously. We have a historical society in here that, like, with a part of downtown that I'm like, what's so historical about that? So, Castle said, went to Brooksville raid reenactment many times down here. Worked it as a Boy Scout, went for fun, and chaperone for my son's school. Yeah,
They're really fun to go to. I would recommend going to.
absolutely. And yes, the artillery makes the biggest boom booms.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. Let me do one thing real quick, and it's only because I'm a geek here with this. One thing I wanted to illustrate too, I mentioned the movements, the yellow, reds, the major movements, but what you can't see on here very well are railroads. you can see some of the rivers, and we're going to talk about forts on rivers. Remember back in the Civil War, the way to move troops and supplies was only two ways. They didn't have planes and trucks and cars. It was buggies over bad roads, or it was quickest was shipping down the rivers, or rail cars. And there's several battles were determined by rail cars. I mentioned a cannon on a rail car at Alusty. Well, first battle of Manassas, rail cars allowed Joseph V. Johnston's forces, including Stonewall Jackson, to move from the Shenandoah Valley over to Manassas Junction in time before the Union advance, which you'll see as we talk about more and more how critical waterways and railroads become in the conduct of the war.
And the road to Alusty, there's a fort in Jacksonville, Fort Milton, correct? Didn't they talk about something about wasn't there? And I might be remembering this wrong. Something about them stopping the train in Fort Milton or something like that. Was that also in Fort Milton?
Yeah.
That was a neat little local find we had during the Lusty.
Yes, exactly.
So it showed how important the railroads were.
Exactly. You had to move quickly. So, and they didn't, I mean, horse and buggy days. So no planes. So, all right, we'll keep going with the Lusty because actually, I don't know if you can see it with this map, but there's no train rail on here. But either way, the Lusty was the first battle. Like we said, any of the educational days are good days to go to these things. They really are. There's also a fort. We didn't label it up here with Fernandina Beach that's up here north of Jacksonville called Fort Clinch. It's a Civil War era fort, but it really never saw any action per se. But it's in the area. And then we'll go to the next one is Fort McAllister. All right. Fort McAllister is just south of Savannah. It is we'll see some pictures with it, and I'll let the pictures tell you more about it because it really was one of my Grenadier for Science. You'll see different types of forts. You have earthen forts, earth, clay, grass, or you have brick and mortar forts. So there are different types that are here. Fort McAllister is actually an earthen fort. You would think it's not a strategic location, but it was at that time leading up to the war with these rivers all connecting into Savannah and different waterways into the area. And here is the entrance into Fort McAllister. The state park sign here. This is a case where it is a state park. It's not a National Park Service, a federal park. And you'll see in a couple of these cases, some of these have been relegated to state parks, and really the states do a pretty good job of keeping care of these places. To the greatest extent possible. McAllister was really a nice area. I believe they have a camping area associated with it too. So it's really interesting. Yeah. Hey, Wade, welcome back. Good to see you again. Snortopoopus, I'm going to get to that in just a little bit. That is a nice place to visit. And with McAllister here, it's marshy. It's on the Atlantic. You can see, with the terrain there. They had a wreckage of a blockade runner, the Nashville. It was destroyed by the Monitor Montauk in 1863. Basically, they just deconstructed it. The wreck, is north of Arrowhead. Yes.
I remember things when I see the pictures. Oh, yes.
Yeah. It's
very interesting.
It really is one of the most interesting. It's what is crazy with this one is that you don't expect much from it. You really, really don't, but you can spend hours there. And I'm going to, like I said, what you're going to get is a tease of things tonight. Hopefully down the road, we can spend some more time on some of these places. And here, the garrison mascot, Tomcat. He was the sole Confederate fatality after 7 hours of bombardment on March 3, 1863. The poor cat got killed by the Union gunboats. How about that? The
Aww.
death of the cat was deeply regretted by the men, and news of the fatality was communicated to General Beauregard in the official report of the action.
Aw, poor kitty.
So absolutely. So, it's here's a little Civil War hockey. Did Rhett Butler on the Nashville Ducks? No, I don't know. Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't give a damn either about that. So. Oh my gosh. So yeah, this is one of the ones that I thought was really neat. Was the
Oh,
mascot died.
Sort of purpose. Oh my goodness. No, it's more like it's like boom boom meow.
Oh my god! Oh.
You have to do it halfway.
That's awesome. Anyway, I won't. All right. Well, we're gonna take a second. Mourn the cat. 100 years later, he got the historical commission.
May it still be resting in peace.
Exactly. Or pieces. Anyway, sorry.
In pieces. I remember these, the Hobbit houses.
This, folks. He must have been. Yeah, he probably was the last 3 lives. Folks, this here, and you can see where the gun emplacement is. That is pointed out at the river, not necessarily the Atlantic, but you see these mounds. A lot of the sleeping areas, the ammunition was stored in these mounds. But to me, that looks like something out of a book, a movie that some of y'all like. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe y'all.
They look like Hobbit houses.
I was trying to see if they would say it, but yes, you're right. I just think it's.
I'm excited because
I thought it was like the first time I went there, it was like the Shire, and when we walked out early that morning out into the opening, you know what the first thing I saw was? A deer. And a deer, he didn't stay long enough for y'all to see him. So it's the geeky wants to live there. Hole in the ground that lived a hobbit. Yes, they got bunks in there too for you. So one cat versus a shell from a 15-inch naval rifle. Not good odds, though. Snort to poop is not a good odds.
You know, they must have been dog lovers.
Well, that is neat. And like I said, hopefully we'll take a look at more of Fort McAllister another time with more pictures, more angles of it.
Hopefully I took some pictures inside.
What's that?
Hopefully I took some pictures inside.
Yeah, we got pictures inside the Hobbit holes and stuff. What's neat with this fort, though, is it had its normal gun placements, but off to the south, I believe, along the water, though, they had another trench with a mortar. Cannon are what we have here that are more face level or they can elevate a little bit, but mortars actually shoot lob shells on things. They actually had a separate area for their mortar there. So with the layout of of that fort. So, well, with that being said, we're going to move on to the great Fort Pulaski in Savannah. And I'm going to go back now that Kiki said she'd been to Savannah, tour the old houses. Yeah, we didn't tour them, but we looked through a lot of, you could definitely see a lot of that. And yes, Snortopupus, yes. Savannah is where Sherman fetched up after March to Georgia. You can see that on the map here from the blue, from the northwest down into Savannah. And actually, after Fort Pulaski, they moved north, and we're going to see a small little out-of-the-way place just after we're done with Fort Pulaski. I will not. Did I lose the chat? A chat on StreamYard. Oh, no, that was on the starred side. Sorry about that. And actually, before we move on, because I remember Snort Poops had talked about this, he visited New Zealand in 2006 and got to visit the Hopton movie set. He has photos. So,
oh, how cool.
Yeah. I remember seeing some of those pictures you've shared before. Well, Fort Pulaski was named after a Polish officer that came to help the U.S. Or the country in the Revolutionary War. And it was a brick and masonry fort built, on the coast right near Savannah Harbor. Well, let's take a look at Fort Pulaski here. It was, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say, oh wow, look at the sign they made back then. I was being a little smarty
Jeez.
pants.
Well, it's named for General Casimir Pulaski, the Polish hero who was mortally wounded at the Siege of Savannah, 1779. So, and it tells you about Robert E. Lee saw his first service as a graduation from West Point. Um, it was never garrisoned until Georgia local troops seized it. Um, you can read more about it. After 30 hours of bombardment, as a result of which the walls were breached and its guns disabled, Colonel Olmsted surrendered the fort. This here, I'm not going to beat it to death tonight, but it's really right there. The bombardment marked the first effective use of rifle cannon against masonry fortification and constituted epoch in military history. Basically, folks, what that's saying is rifled artillery made brick and mortar forts obsolete. In that little time of bombardment, they blew the wall down and exposed the powder magazine on the other side of the fort, which forced the surrender. So you can see that that's one of the lessons of the Civil War, and really with all wars, is advancements in technology, that occur.
Don't a lot of times during the wars, to combat things, technology tends to advance faster during times of war because of trying to find ways to beat the enemy?
Absolutely, they do. Like necessity is the mother of all inventions. Yeah, you're always trying to do it. Code breaking, technology. Look at World War II with atomic technology. I mean, they're just you do. Everybody's working on it. It depends who gets there fastest with the most. Okay, Snortopoopas. We won't tell him. We won't tell her. Advancements in the efficiency of killing people. Yes.
Yep. Unfortunately,
sadly, that's true, but yes, that is true. Just saying that they have Casimir Pulaski Day in Illinois, first Monday of every March, no school. Wow. That is interesting to know. Had no clue with that. Well, he was mortally wounded down there in the Siege of Savannah in the Revolutionary War. So, hey, thank you for that.
Very interesting.
Fact. And yes, Snortopoopas, how to turn a fort into a cheese grater. Yeah, you can still see all the pot marks to this day and all.
Yep.
That with they blew holes into the walls. But if you go to the right of this, and that's what we'll look at another time. Like I said, tease y'all to come back. You'll see that all the brick is discolored, more of a reddish orange color, and that's where the fort was breached. And it was very interesting to see the power of that, because if you look at where Tybee Island is, about a mile and a half away, that was a hell of a distance to be shooting artillery accurately also. So, but if you ever get a chance to visit Fort Pulaski, it is a wonderful fort to visit. You can see the old moats around it, like, forts have and had. So yes.
I got to say something. This is completely not about the fort, but the picture itself. This picture looks like it was taken weird, wonky. But I got to tell you, I love technology, because we would not honestly be able to show a lot of these pictures, because they have pictures of our children in them and us in them, and we don't necessarily want to share that with the world at this time. So I found a site that can actually remove people from the pictures. So actually, my husband and my youngest were standing in front of this picture, and I removed them so that we could actually see it. So the advancements in technology are allowing you to be able to see some of these fort pictures, which you normally would not be able to see. That's all. That's why it looks so unbalanced. To me, it looks
Sounds
like
okay.
someone.
Well, I just don't want to scare off the whole world. If they saw me, they might all go running away.
Maybe
that's the problem. So, oh my. Okay, well let's move on. We still got a lot of places to go.
Yeah.
The next one is we're following Sherman north up into Carolina to Rivers Bridge, South Carolina. We happened to stay one night overnight in Walterboro. We were heading up north for something, and I don't know what the heck. We saw a sign or something about a battlefield. So in Dadman curiosity, I hey, let's go look at it. And it turned out to be one of the nicest little hidden gems that you could find. I mean, it's
Mm.
just a small state park. I mean, here, River Bridge Battlefield. It's just a small little state park. A lot of wooded. There's a swampy area. It really was a nothing engagement overall because at that point Sherman was unstoppable, moving with tens of thousands of troops. Lafayette McLaws was left to defend here with about 1,500 men and a few artillery pieces, which you're fighting a delaying action at this point, but it is still a battle. Dadman red shirt, ha ha. I got clunking technology. Doctored photo.
Yes, it was. It was. I was full transparency on this
Oh, and
show.
don't say that geeky. I mean, I'm sure you're nothing like me, but hey. But yeah, one of the interesting things too, I mentioned the name Lafayette McLaws. One of the things when we first visited here, I was like, that's got to be a mistake. I thought I knew a lot of Civil War and stuff, but you find out you don't know everything. And, at Gettysburg, he commanded one of Longstreet's divisions. That's like thousands and thousands of men. And here he had about 1,000, 1,500 men here. Well, what I learned about later was that apparently Longstreet had it out for him when Longstreet's division was moved west for a few months back in 1863, 1864. And there was some up into the Knoxville area that he brought McLaws up on charges. It went nowhere, but McLaws was basically demoted, put down, and that's how he ended up here from big battle, big command of many men to just a rear guard action. So exactly. Yep, close to 60,000 troops, Snortopupus. Yep, it was an unstoppable machine at that point. So, but this is a nice one in the middle of South Carolina. If you get a chance to see it, you can see really. I mean, there's a lot of wooded area that they had to make footbridges because there was swampy area, and this out here beyond the trees. And then they see the dates of February 2nd to 3rd, 1865. That's rapidly approaching the end of the war. It was a delaying action there. And yes, you're right. Lafayette McLaws, Leonidas K. Polk, who was an Episcopal minister, and Braxton Bragg with those damn heavy eyebrows of his. Although I did pull off that one of William J. Hardee once with the goatee and all, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
Yeah,
you
that
did.
was cool. So yes, exactly. Cool general names. Snortopupus mentioned it earlier. Fort Pickens over in the Pensacola area, folks. It is one of only 4 Union forts that did not fall into Southern hands during the war. Speaking of Braxton Bragg, he tried to attack it, but was repulsed at the Battle of Santa Rosa Island. You want to go to visit Fort Pickens? Ask the Rangers about Battle of Santa Rosa Island because there's no markers or anything for it. They will love you because they get to talk about it. People don't really know much about it. But see, around Fort Pickens was also a couple minor forts, Barrancas and McCree. Around the time Pickens was a formidable fort, it actually, with the Southerners, had Fort McCree. Pickens demolished it. And we can talk about when we get into a special on that particular fort. But it truly is an interesting fort to visit. And Geek says, Leonidas sounds like a Roman emperor. Yeah. And then Snortopupus says, the geeky Spartan king at Thermopylae. Yep. All right. Well, here, Snortopupus, this is for you then. Here's a couple pictures from Fort Pickens that we have. This is the parade area. You notice that they've a lot of times these forts had like housing areas and stuff in the middle of the fields. They where the bunks were, the quarters, the mess halls and things. The outer walls here usually were supplies, powder magazines, gun emplacements, things like that. So you got various parts of this fort. This was an interesting fort. It seemed wider than some of the brick and masonry forts that I visited. It seemed wider than Pulaski. It seemed wider than something like Fort Clinch.
It seemed quite big to me.
Yeah, it does. It does. And here's a view down the wall out to the Gulf of Mexico. And it looks it looks a bit different than some of the other forts I've seen. But it's a good place to visit out on the Gulf. It was really a neat place to be. So, and we don't have pictures here, but what you'll see is this fort, like with Fort Sumter, they in the 20th century started modernizing it for coastal defenses, anti-submarine, anti-espionage things. So
I'm sorry.
wider. What are the wider comment?
No, yes. Wider. Yes.
Wider.
Enunciate.
Enunciate,
Enunciate.
yes. Kind of like the Schmidt House. Take me to the Schmidt House. Yeah, enunciation. This is all Mrs. Dadman walking right here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
She does not settle for less than the best. So, but and there's more here. We'll do some time with that. But it's interesting how they modernized for coastal defenses and stuff like that. There's more out on the island too, with that to be seen. So, all right, and then that brings us to Columbus, Georgia. One of the last battles of the Civil War happened in Columbus. We actually got to tour that by, I don't know how the hell we ended up in Columbus, Georgia. I do not know how.
So many times while we find these things, we're driving and we see a sign and we turn.
Yep.
My mom and his mom would go with us, and my mom just loved it because it was always an adventure, because never knew where we were going to end up. Never.
Exactly. So we got Columbus here. We don't have any pictures, but I will tell you we still have the car tour thing. And one of the last scenes of their tour is you're driving down the road, down the hill, like the Union artillery, the Union cavalry charge was in the battle, like right down the same road, same hill. It really, really was a cool effect that they had there. We move on to, which is really a more somber place. I don't know how many people are familiar with the basically hideous place called Andersonville. It's a Confederate prison camp, and it's not the only one. There were bad camps north and south both, but probably the one with the worst reputation is Andersonville for the conditions that were they had to live in, for the deaths, for everything else. It actually has become, and you'll see in here, this a national monument here, and there's Andersonville here, and we're not going to show the pictures. This is going to take one that really takes some time on its own. As Snortapoopa said, hell on earth. If you ever are interested in about it, it really was hell on earth for what people had to live in. It was designed. They had design problems with it, where ended up the water supply was downhill when that's where the toilet was supposed to. It just all kind of things were really horrible with that.
When we talk about just any of these battlefields, the one thing that even though we go, yeah, it was fun, we got to see this, that I always remember that this is where people fought and people died, and young men died, fathers, sons, sometimes, they died on this ground that we're walking on. And even though, yes, it's enjoyable to see the history and all that, but to the somberness really of where we are at and what happened there, just sometimes is overwhelming. And I think Andersonville just kind of brings that all together, all the emotion and the how war is horrible no matter when or where, and just remembering that. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's well said, very well said. So, and over the years they've converted the part to the National Prisoner of War Museum for all wars that were there, that the country has been in. And as Snortapoopa said, they tried and hanged the commandant of Andersonville after the war. And I believe he said, I was just following orders or something to that effect. But, still they the ultimate end for the commandant there. What is interesting is that I had a friend that asked me to look up one of his relatives that was buried here. I I can't remember if it was Civil War or if it was another war, but it is a national cemetery too. But it was really interesting seeing somebody I know, their family member, with a marker there too. Well, we're going to move on to another part of the country then. All right, we're going to go up into the Kentucky, Tennessee area. Yeehaw!
Yay,
Kentucky
Kentucky.
said that anyway, sorry. Oh,
Yep.
Can I tell that old joke?
No.
Okay, dang. All right. The cousin marriages. Okay, gotcha.
Yes.
I'll just say it like that. How about
Yeah.
that? Anyway, wait for Geeky to shoot at me or something. But anyway, the central part and the northern part here, we've got Kentucky, Tennessee, which had a lot of action in it, believe it or not. It's quite surprising of what you find up here. First, one of the things is that we found Richmond, Kentucky. There's a Richmond in Kentucky. And we actually found a battlefield up there. That's where Kirby Smith won a victory, up on the western flank, the eastern flank of the southern invasion into Kentucky. The South was trying to move into Kentucky to bring them into the war. They thought that they could get the populace to turn with them. Did not happen, kind of like Maryland. And they found out they could not stay long in a foreign soil. Let's see. Back to Andersonville. There was a movie about the trial in 1970. Richard Behazard playing commandant, and had William Shatner in it. Ah, interesting. That might have to be something to watch then. Look it up. Okay. Ah, absolutely. We'll go here. We got a couple pictures in Richmond. Battle of Richmond, Kentucky, in August 29 to 30th, 1862. You can see at this time in the war, the Confederates were either even-handed or sometimes had numerical advantages at times, very early in the war. So this was actually one of the better battlefields for driving tours. It's probably one of the more encroached by development around it that we've seen. I will talk a little more about that later when we get to some of the bigger open fields. So, but in here, it was not completely encroached, but there were still pastures. There were still fields out here, where the troops had moved. And, so it wasn't like we talked earlier about the Eastern Theater, literally like Snortopupus had said earlier. When we toured Fredericksburg, we were going like on roads between people's houses. That's how bad the development is in the Eastern Theater. Years ago, Disney wanted to build a history theme park right next to Manassas Battlefield, but that got derailed. But all those places are just overrun with development now. But the Western Theater, Snortopupus, especially if you can ever get that way, you would love it just for the nature. And I hope you enjoy these pictures we get coming up with some of these out here in the West. Next is Perryville. The largest battle in Kentucky, the last major battle in Kentucky. It was a tactical Confederate victory, but Bragg, when he found out that Don Carlos Buell's Army of the Ohio was about to pounce down on them too, decided to retreat, pull back, and then it pretty much ended Southern efforts into Kentucky. There would be raids and marauders throughout the war, but the last true offensive actions by the Confederacy into Kentucky. Yes, cool. Thank you, Snortopupus. And hey, enjoy these couple pictures right here. This is just a sample of what we got from Perryville. Just the beautiful rolling hills of Kentucky. Just beautiful country. I mean, it's hard to believe something like this happened there many, many years ago. And, one of the great things are all these signages, these maps that explain what happened in these areas and with the graphics, the troop movements and stuff. I just a nice place. And see, as I mentioned, like Fort McAllister, Perryville's not a National Park Service. It's a state park up there. It's a state historic site up in Kentucky. Very well kept, very well maintained. Close to where Merber was born. Oh, wow. Awesome. Yeah, I tell you what, it's a beautiful, beautiful part of the country. And we even found a castle up there. No, not castle, but a castle up in Kentucky. And if I can show it
A
to you,
building castle, yes.
yes, a real castle out in the middle of
Yeah,
nowhere.
it just was like there. It was so
Yeah,
bizarre.
that is hilarious. So, um, okay, this is one of those what the hell did we run into towns? Munfordville, Kentucky. Yes, castle. So, but Munfordville, Kentucky was a site of a very small engagement also. As you can see, it's following the red line. It's Bragg's forces are moving north. And this was an engagement that was not intended to be brought on, kind of like the start of Gettysburg, but troop commanders ignored our orders and, brought on an engagement. So let's see. Castle, we got Castle. It's a Mrs. And yes, Castle. Yes, I invent new words. So hey, and we saw White Castles up in Kentucky. So hey, go figure with that. So all right, but Munfordville. Hey, but do you remember what the oddest thing in Munfordville was?
No, I don't remember. Show me
You
a picture and maybe I'll
remember the
remember.
guy that tried to rip me off because I wanted to buy one thing but didn't have change for 20?
No.
The creepy old man that was hitting on my mother.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was interesting. That was interesting. Oh,
takes
man.
all types.
Yeah. My brain. And White Castle. Oh, wow. Not a White Castle fan. I'm a Crystal fan, but hey, I don't know. I've never had a White Castle.
Yes, you have.
No, I didn't eat one.
We bought them and ate them. We didn't give them to you.
Exactly.
So sorry.
I was saving up for the KFC trip to the museum, which we found the picture of, folks. We have found the KFC original location and museum pictures.
Yep.
So, but that will have to be another time. Oh gosh, geez.
Well, the White Castles were good, by the way.
Oh, that's good. They called it the Battle of the Bridge. So it's more terrain, but it's it's beautiful country, and I know it is just grass.
But you think, just picture a battle going on. Yeah, it's just grass, but that's where battles took place a lot of times.
And that's the thing, compared to the Eastern Theater, where you got cities like up and around, like Marie's Heights and Fredericksburg. It's like you lose the effect of the charge up the hill because there's so much development around it.
Right.
At least here you can still appreciate what it might have been like at that time,
and thinking that just of, if these, they're exhausted, and here they're having to march and they're having to go up the hills and they're being, shot at and, and just the whole thing. It's beautiful, but it's very, very poignant at the same time when you realize what
and also
happened.
too, imagine, pretend this is like Gettysburg with an open field like this on day 3 with Pickett's charge. You also have to remember at the time that their tactics, they did not have automatic weapons. They did not have big artillery type things. They basically, in order to mask they didn't have, at the start of the war, they did not have repeating rifles either. They were very rare. There were more muskets and stuff. So the tactics at the time leading into Civil War were from the Revolution and all, which was to mass your fire, you massed your men together. Like you see in The Patriot and all the movies,
right,
with all just standing there for some stupid, but that's how you organize your units and mass your fire. Fire by rank, fire by volley. We saw that at the homeschool thing. They had the different commands of how you fired at times. You're walking across that field exposed to musket fire, cannon fire. When you get closer, you're getting canister, which is shotgun pellets, basically. These type of pictures allow you to kind of try to understand what it was like. And these guys...
And they had to keep going forward. No matter who fell. They had to walk over them. And just trying to picture that. And as a young person, these were young kids a lot of times having to do that and experience that. It just is something I can never really understand, never will. And they didn't have counseling when they came back.
Yeah,
if they came back. You know,
exactly.
it's just mm,
It is. Yep. It is very interesting when you look at this terrains, and to get the feel is you got to understand the tactics too.
yeah,
But there wasn't hiding fire and stuff like that. I mean, there was at times. You did have snipers and sharpshooters that would hide out and snipe all people, but if you did any
that wasn't the
significant
norm.
movement, you had to, you moved
Yeah,
your men in force. So,
yeah.
hey, we got 8 people with us still. Hey, welcome everybody. Make sure you like and subscribe and follow us on the Twitch side. We're just we're still getting storming going, and oh my favorite place on earth, Fort Donelson.
Fort Donelson.
One of my first streams did was at our trip to Fort Donelson with some pictures there.
Mm.
My favorite fort anywhere. I could just fall asleep on the mounds looking over the Cumberland River there. Just beautiful country.
Mm-hmm.
Um, here's a visitor center.
Wow, whoever took that picture is freaking awesome.
I can't pay that photographer enough.
Sorry.
Just like my editor, I can't afford that person. So let me see where the chat went a little bit. I think Snort likes the fields of green grass. I know there was a discussion about White Castles. Snort Poopus, that's how I am with Cincinnati chili. Everybody talked about Skyline chili up there. Oh my God, I couldn't stand the stuff. It was just weird. Give me Texas chili or Florida chili. Give me anything that's not Cincinnati chili. And then the grass shadow facts to come over the hills. So yeah. All right. Yay, General Grant, my favorite. Oh wow. Hey, Snort Poopus. You're gonna make a lot of people mad with that one. Oh. But did you know he came close to dying, getting shot by a Confederate sniper? I think it was at Battle of Belmont, where he was riding to get to the boat. They didn't shoot him. Imagine what one shot could have done there. But yeah, he had his close calls. But he also had a lot of politics against him, jealous generals, and accusing him of drunkenness and all. Grant is a great character study, and not only generalship, but even what he did as a president, and the circumstances surrounding him. So, all right, well, Fort Donelson, this is just the intro to the park here, and the Dover Hotel, which you can see in the background there, is actually where this surrender was contemplated. The evening before, the Confederates tried to break out one morning and then stopped halfway through and pulled back and actually lost ground because they did not break out all the way. Get our sniper. Yeah, maybe, but this one didn't take the shot, so it drives people crazy. Trying to hit the shot. Yep, another drives people crazy. That it does. What's interesting with the Dover Hotel, it's also a museum now. At that time, the night before the surrender, the generals met there. It was Simon Bolivar Buckner Jr., Gideon Pillow, and of course now I want to name another politician. But basically, the two politicians refused to surrender and turned it over to Buckner to surrender, who did it thinking it would save lives and be afforded quarter and that things and all. Well, Buckner approaches Grant to surrender, and that's where Grant gets the name unconditional surrender, because his response to the request for terms was, there are no terms but immediate and unconditional surrender. I prepare to move on your works immediately. Was the response he got. Well, the two politicians, they had a boat of reinforcements come up. They got them and their 300 men on a boat and got to the other side of the river and escaped. So one used to be a Secretary of War in the U.S. government, was afraid of being punished, you think? And the other was just publicly embarrassed after that for fleeing. So, but there's a lot about Fort Donelson that is wonderful. It is a beautiful place to go visit. I could sleep here. I just love this view. I've always loved this view of the Cumberland River.
Mm-hmm.
Why, I don't know. And if you see into the front ground how it comes around a bend, a few days before the land action, the Union gunboats were coming down the river, faced with these artillery batteries. There was even a floating battery down at water level. They did severe damage on the Union fleet. They had to withdraw, and that's when they decided to go over land again instead of trying to go down the approach it directly frontal assault on the river. So, and yes, Grant is a good audiobook. That's a good thing to do. Yep. Yep. Yep, he would. So this is one of my favorite looks here. And really, Fort Donelson was part of a 3-fort network, really. You had Fort Heilman, which was over in Kentucky on the Tennessee River. And our next fort is Fort Henry, that's on the Tennessee River. You can see, let's see if I can, right in there. That's how close they are. Fort Heilman is across up in here from Fort Henry. So we tried to find Fort Henry. Mrs., do you want to tell everybody what happened?
Oh, is this that one with
This is that one. I'll show the picture of what we claim to be Fort Henry.
Okay, this picture. Okay, Fort Henry, where it was put, basically it's been overrun by the river. So we were on a quest to find the marker. They said there was a marker in the middle of the river. When we travel, a lot of times we get a rental vehicle, and we get insurance on it because we can sometimes be sucky drivers, and sometimes we get into wonderful adventures. So we're looking for this place, and we come up to this gravel kind of roady path thing. And Dadman was like, well, I'm not going to go there. And I'm like, Dadman? I said, you've got a rental vehicle, it's 4-wheel drive, and we've got rentals insurance. I said, be a man and drive to that marker or whatever, something along those lines. And he did. And he went, and this is what we found.
Odds are it's probably a channel marker looking back at it.
We don't think it is, but we
folks,
claimed it.
The problem was we were in northern Tennessee trying to get down to Corinth, Mississippi. It was getting dark, and
this was a campground. So we were like driving into people's camp, areas where they were campers. Not campers, but tents, people camping. And so, we're like, well, so we just finally claimed this as the marker, even though it probably isn't. We don't care. We have officially deemed it the marker for Fort Henry.
Fort Henry. We're claiming it. And to Snortopupus's point, yes, that is true. Fort Heilman over on the other side of the river was not completed, was abandoned. Fort Henry was abandoned because half their guns could not work because they were underwater or in disrepair. The river was already encroaching it as the fort was being attacked, and it really was just a delaying action.
Just sounds like
at that point it was just bad design, with where
a true government project.
Yes, Fort Henry is swimming with the fishes. Absolutely, Snortopupus.
It'd be interesting to take a boat out there to see if you could actually find the marker.
That would be.
Since none of us are boat or
are the remnants of the fort. That's kind of like
Yeah, that would be fun to do. It will never happen for us.
We actually have a fort. I'll talk about this a little bit more with Vicksburg, but we have a fort here that's been reclaimed by dirt, woods, and everything. It used to oversee the river, and there was a fort there, but now you can't. You're not even close to the river now. After all these.
Yep.
Hey, Snortopupus is shovel ready.
Come on, we'll go do it.
Absolutely.
You sound like a fun bear to go on an adventure with. It sounds wonderful.
We get Snortopupus and Squeaky Mouse and maybe Geeky. I don't know. Get the whole group out here, but Jess and Castle, get ready. We'll have a great party and a great road trip.
Yeah.
I'm not renting the car, though, or the hotel, though, because somebody else can pay for the damages.
Just get the insurance.
Yeah, exactly. Another one we visited was actually Clarksville, Tennessee. It's, if you can see, it's east of Fort Donelson on the Cumberland River. It was the next to fall on the move towards Nashville. Uh-oh. She's listening. I thought I slipped that one by her, but yeah, oh yeah, it's on. Let's go. Hey, Castle. All right. You're the man. Castle's buying, folks. Oh wow. Hey, yep. Hey, yep. You one day. Oh no, Snortopoopus, he's a fat lazy bear. Direct operation from the head. Oh, come on. Snortopoopus, you gotta be the general. Like oh God, come on, you gotta be the general. You gotta be with us. Castle be hey, Squeaker, he can be Castle as long if he's paying for it, he can be general. So Dadman had said it on stream. Yep, absolutely. Now, Geeky, I agree with you. I like glamping. The missus will tell you I'm a glamper because I like a yurt. She likes the hot stuff. So, hey. Anyway, Clarksville, Tennessee was home of Fort Defiance. And it really was not a lot here. It's basically an in-town city fort. You know, there's just, it was stationed on a hill, but with many, many Union troops coming, you cannot hold it. And I love that. Yes, Snort, you got to come with us. You'll be General Ulysses S. Burr. There you go. Absolutely. So, well, that's Clarksville. There's not a lot to see here. Nashville, we still got to find pictures. What happened in Nashville? There was a little fort or two here or there, some locations and stuff. We did visit. There were some markers in town that we were able to visit.
Was Nashville the one that was the square block?
No, that's coming up later.
Okay. Sorry.
But hey, can I tell? I do have to tell a story, though.
Go ahead.
And I'm not going to name the kid.
Okay.
But who has heard of the Hermitage? Andrew Jackson.
Oh, that's one of the things that we just saw a sign for and went to.
Yes. In Nashville, we just saw the sign one day when we were staying over. We're like, hey, let's go to the Hermitage tomorrow.
You want me to?
Well, hold on a second. We got discussions about officer names. Captain Castle is cooler than General Cornpop. I agree with you though on that one. Lord is excellent work too. Castle, hold out for Lord or hold out for that one. You'll get it, I'm sure. But would you like to tell this story about Nashville?
Yes. Well, on this journey of battlefields that we went to, we actually started with we had a convention we were going to up in where was it?
It was up in Indiana. Yes,
in Indiana.
Andy Jackson. Yes, Andy Jackson. Everybody.
And so we were coming home from that convention. Apparently at the convention, someone had some really nasty ick and gave it to us, unbeknownst to us at the time. Well, one of my kids, we were going to the Hermitage, and we were doing we're going to do the tour that they had, and outside, they weren't feeling that great, you know. And I'm saying, "Oh, you're just hot. Let's sit down, you know, shade, drink, and everything else." So we're going through the Hermitage, and we're on the upper floor, and I'm like looking at my child, and I'm like, we need to get out now. And they're like, well, I'm sorry, we can't do that. I said, no, you don't understand. These original floors are going to have vomit on them if you don't get us out of this house now. Boy, they found that exit right away. Got us out. We got out to the back porch, almost made it to the edge. And the poor child, I felt so for them.
But that child does not like Andrew Jackson anyway, so it's kind of appropriate.
Yes. Yes.
Barked on the back porch, right at the back porch step.
But. So even in their younger years, their feelings about Andrew Jackson were made known.
Yes.
Even before they knew what their feelings were.
Yeah. I want you to pay attention though, real quick. Everybody, right below Nashville is Stones River. That's a place we've been to, but I'll take this opportunity to tell you. At the end, I'm going to recap. When we were going through looking at pictures, we realized we left off a ton of places.
Oh my gosh!
In this presentation,
Tons.
And I still have more pictures to go through, and there are probably still places that we haven't done yet. You know, so okay. I got to say this with the chat though. I do like this because I'll touch on that again.
Yes.
Yes. Major mouse shift sounds good, But what about the missus? If y'all, how about the missus and me? What would we be?
Oh
I mean, what
goodness.
would our titles be? Yes, let's talk about that later. When I can find the pictures, yes, Stones River. That was a New Year's Day battle, 3 days leading up and around New Year's Day. But yes, this is Tennessee action. I think we talked about before. So, yeah. Well, my kid got her
Oh, I
revenge
like. Oh, I.
on Jackson. So I'm a deputy. Well, of course you're the Majesty.
Of
You have to
course,
be the
yes.
Majesty.
I'll take
But I'm a
mine.
deputy.
Could be
Well,
deadpan. So be grateful.
okay, I guess I'll be
We're
okay.
trying to what?
God, it just sounds so now deputy. Okay, they sound like Barney Fife then with that. Hey, Andy. So anyway, okay. Wait, and now Geeky agreed to that. What? Okay. Anyway, welcome to the Dadman Walking Show featuring Mrs. Dadman Walking. Love you, babe. Yeah, that's awesome. But hey, we'll touch on a few more of those at the end about parts that we have not gotten to, and we're getting closer to the end though. Actually, believe it or not, we haven't even hit the hour and a half point yet. But let us go. Let us go. What did I? Oh God. That could be a Federal Navy officer, Captain Crunch, Admiral Boss. I like that, Captain Crunch and Admiral Boss. God, you guys are great in this chat. And His Majesty the Lordship approves of the roles. So you guys are great. So let's look at what we got now. We pointed at Stones River. Please don't tell me I found pictures, but I forgot that I said Stones River. You must. Okay, I forgot that I said that. But yeah, we don't have pictures tonight, but it was a last second reminder that we had been there. Leads us to another very pivotal battle early in the war in the Western Theater is at Shiloh, or as I like to call it, Pittsburgh Landing from a Southern standpoint. We have lots of pictures of Shiloh. I believe Snorpoopus, you might have said once that you want to visit there. I'll have to make that one of our priorities of trying to do a show in the future because we got lots of stuff from there, lots of beautiful land. As I said, it's not encroached. It's still out in a very rural area, a very pristine battlefield. It's just incredible land around there, and it's just awesome to go through. What's unique about Shiloh Park, though, is that they also have some Indian burial mounds over near the Tennessee River. This battle, yes, there you go, Snorpoopus. Shiloh, exactly. So a couple pictures we got here, and we'll have more to share another time. But here's just the entrance to it, the Shiloh Battlefield run by the National Park Service. And then we got, this is a view along the river of the Tennessee River. This road runs through. They've actually had flooding over the road at times before, and have had to shut this part of the park down before because of flooding, too much rain, too much flooding.
Is that where we just kind of drove around and around? Further up, there's a link that.
Okay. Geek, let me go back. Jess looked up for us. The place is the site of Fort Henry. Where to find the markers for Fort Henry. Cool. I'll have to. Back then, we didn't have smartphones, and the reception would have probably been next to nothing up there. Let's put it this way: our drive down from we did the drive from Fort Donelson down here to Corinth, Mississippi, which is just south of Shiloh. We drove in the middle of black night. It was so dark that night. Fortunately, we didn't run over one of Snortopoopus's cousins because there was something blacker than black night that had run across the truck right in front of us. We never got a clear look at it, but it looked like it had to be a bear of some type, don't you think?
It probably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's such a bloodbath. Exactly. And that's one thing too, folks, is with looking at these parks too. I meant to do this real quick here. Was that's the link for the Fort Henry. These parks are not as big as you might think a battlefield
Mhm.
will be. They're very walkable. They're not as uh, wide. Vicksburg, when I visited it, was tinier than. I mean, you'd sit there, you hear about 200,000 men in this area and citizens hiding in cliffs and stuff. But when you look at the park, look at the size of the battlefield, you're like, how?
We also got to remember though that a lot of not necessarily the it's not the it didn't look the same way as it did now, but not necessarily a lot of the trees were there and stuff like that because I heard that was like what one ranger was saying is that the way we see it now, not necessarily all this growth was there. The trees were not necessarily all there and things
Mm-hmm.
like that. So taking that in consideration, also that physical uh look of the land is different than it was
Yeah. And
then.
I'm going to go back to what, Jess, thank you for those links. It's good to see because when we traveled back then was probably 2013, 2014, and they were still making improvements and stuff. And I think that they probably improved their markers over the years because there was not really anything to tell you where things were back then. Fort Heilman also over in Kentucky is being finished, from what I understand. But uh, the Park Service admitted back then that they there was stuff out there, but they didn't have it marked. So those signs would be wonderful. I'll definitely be on that next time if we get up there again. So. But thank you for that information on that. But in 2013, 2014, it was not really it was not well marked over there. But yeah, they would. I'm sure they would have fun with our picnic baskets.
The picnic baskets.
This probably is my second favorite. I mean, there is something about me and water, but I don't want to go on a boat. I just love the
Mhm.
freaking rivers here. This is awesome. And really, if you know about Shiloh, and we'll talk more about it another time when we talk about the battles, but just a little tease. The day one, the Confederates drove the Grant badly back to Pittsburgh Landing itself. Just some noble defenses kept it from being a complete rout. But and then when the Confederates lost Albert Sidney Johnston on the first day, they suffered a major loss in command. But one of the important things that allowed the Union to hold back the Confederate charges, the Confederates on this side of the battlefield could not keep advancing because there were two Union gunboats stationed out here on the river that
Mhm.
continued firing into the Confederate advance, tearing up big swaths of men. So it kept the Confederates from overrunning the Confederates completely. And if you know about the story, with being on the river, Don Carlos Buell again in the Army of the Ohio comes in just at the right time to reinforce Grant. Day two completely goes the other way. So importance again of rivers. Rivers are key in this war. You had the Blue Water Navy, which was the blockade around out in the oceans, and you had the Brown Water Navy, which is the river fleets. So maybe, sorry, I don't know why I talk about that, but okay. Uh, which now we keep talking about Corinth in line with Shiloh. Corinth was the site of four major rail connections. We talked about railways again. It was a vital stronghold in the South for transportation and moving goods. Well, when the Confederates lost at Shiloh, they moved back to Corinth, hold up. Corinth had a siege too. The Union eventually took Corinth. The Confederates tried to take it back, were repulsed. So there are a couple of different engagements at Corinth also. So Corinth is got a number of different interpretive things in it. Some uh, battle related, some culture related, some local uh, stuff in it. And a couple of pictures with Corinth here is that here's I did all the markers that I could that we had here. And that's why they call it an interpretive center because it's multifaceted, it has many different things. It's not just
Well,
battles and war.
what's neat with a lot of the National Park Service ones is that they had activities specific for children and to go and to learn about it and that you'd go and get a book and you would do whatever the activities were in it and learn different things and you have them go look at different stuff and then they would get a badge for that area.
Mm-hmm.
Um, So I don't know if they were always with these, but I just saw the
No,
national park
they had a lot of
thing.
the
The
junior
Junior
ranger
Ranger,
program. Yeah,
yes, and those were really, really very interesting. I learned a lot of stuff too with them.
and they had both uh, Civil War and Revolutionary War parks.
Mhm.
Really, really neat. But Snorpoopa says here, yes, this is one of the great quotes. At the end of the day of day one at Shiloh, Sherman comes up to Grant, says, "Well, Grant, we've had the devil's own day, haven't we?" Grant said, "Yes, look them tomorrow, though."
Mm, mhm.
And they did. Many, many great quotes there. Um, we got one more here.
Oh, that was
This,
very neat.
yeah, and it talks about the Civil War was fought over issues of liberty, cost was high, and many issues remain to be resolved. What this represents is all of the major battles and engagements of the Civil War. Each stone has a name of a battle on it, and it's like a reflecting pool, and it's just really, really a neat thing what you see here. Let's see, yeah, because see, if you look up, I don't know if you can see it. I'm zoomed in pretty closely. Franklin, Nashville, Fort Fisher, Appomattox. They've each one has a different battle associated with it. So it's Corinth was nice. It was a it had some things from Shiloh because of proximity, had things with Corinth because of the transportation rail lines, the battles that were at Corinth. There was a lot of Native American uh, culture in the area, so it was really an interesting place to visit. It was not just Civil War stuff. Uh, and this is our favorite stop.
Yes.
Snorpoopas, if we go to Shiloh, I'm taking you there, buddy. Russell's Beef House.
Oh my gosh, yes. They actually know how to cook a rare steak.
Yes, that is awesome. Uh, it's I have we've been married 26 years, right?
Mhm. Yep.
And we've been together 27 January 13th.
Yep.
I have never known you to be happy about our flipping rare steak until we went there.
Because nobody knows how to cook a rare steak properly. Every rare steak I get is medium rare. It is not rare. And I'll eat it medium rare, but I really prefer it rare. So yeah, they know how. They did a good job.
Hey, Squeaka, keep lurking. That's awesome. Get your work done. Thank you for the feedback. Om nom nom.
No, you would love it. What's
Yeah.
so cool is that they take and they have a refrigerator and they cook them right in front.
Yes.
There it's an open, it's not hidden or anything. And it's like they'll get the steak and they'll like throw it to the or like toss it over to whoever's cooking it or on the grill. I can't remember, but and then they would cook it right there. And I think they turned around. They asked me, or
Yeah,
I
they
did.
did. They talked to you. We were
Yeah, the
that
cook
close.
actually talked to me, and I said, "Nobody knows how to cook a rare steak, right?" He said, "Yes, we do," and they did. It was perfect.
Well, I will tell you, you know what? We'll all go. You know why? Castle's buying. He's got the credit card.
Oh yeah, woo!
Oh, that's
Oh,
right. Hey, they got big baked potatoes though, at least. I think they have other stuff. They do chicken too. We won't leave you behind. Nobody left behind. We'll find it. Even if we've got to buy damn cheese out of the grocery store and sneak it in. No man or mouse left behind, right? Right, Mrs.
exactly,
Okay.
exactly. I'm sorry, I was shaking my head. I forgot that. I forgot that we're essentially on radio.
Yes, exactly. But hey, with that, we're getting down to the last few right here. We're now entering the state of Mississippi now. Um, we see Shiloh and Corinth and Tupelo, Mississippi.
Yeah.
Titties and chicken. Okay, cool. That's like I said, nobody left out. And Snorri Pooper said over 600,000 dead in the Civil War. The numbers of Civil War dead were not equaled by the combined toll of other American conflicts until the war in Vietnam. Absolutely. And you
That's
know
what.
what? And you know what would happen many times? It'd be days and days of bloodbath. I mean, it's like you look at Shiloh, it was 2 days. Gettysburg, 3 days. Antietam, it was the bloodiest day of the war. I mean, and then the thing is, it wasn't one or two battles. There were more battles for 4 years, and the tactics like that, like we said earlier, the tactics and the weaponry. One of the things that led to more casualties was that it touched on earlier. I heard it said by, I think it was Shelby Foote once, is that the tactics were ahead of the weapons were ahead of the tactics, because like I talked about, messing your men together to mass your fire. But when you got canister artillery, and then when you start to have the advent of repeating rifles and eventually the precursors of machine guns, it's carnage.
Well, and I think some of it too. I mean, if we're honest about it, a lot of them. I mean, they died from wounds, but they were wounds that could have, with the medical at the time and field medicine at the time and everything. A lot of these people probably could have not been casualties, but they die of infection or some secondary issue because of it. They'd get a wound in their leg, which is survivable, but because of infection, just lack of treatment or medicine, they would become a casualty.
Well, and also the technique, like it's talking about the mini balls. The mini balls would just shatter the bone, unlike the modern bullets that clip it or whatever. That's why you had so many amputations, because there was nothing there. So to save you just cut the limb off and, to save the person's life.
Exactly. Yeah.
Otherwise it could be infection or whatever else there is. I will tell y'all, look, and especially somebody like Squeaka or Castle, Geeky, and Snortopoopas, you may know about this. And I know some of our studious people out there. Look up, you probably know the name Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain, Colonel of the 20th Maine, famous at Gettysburg. He's got an interesting history. There's a lot of drama there too. But near the end of the war, around the siege of Petersburg in Virginia, he was wounded in a charge. Basically, he got shot in the groin. It got took out his urethra, and they had to redo his plumbing or something.
I vaguely remember.
And somehow he managed to survive. He died from it eventually many years later for complications, but it was like what they did was like advanced surgical repair that, I mean, nobody wanted to touch him, but his brother, who was one of his officers, finally got somebody that would do it. And it's really, truly, if you know medicine, and I don't, if there's somebody that knows what really all that stuff down there does, well, phrasing.
Well, the thing is, it's a lot of reconstructive stuff that probably was not really done back then.
No, it wasn't.
But the area that it was done is even more rare, even today.
It's just, yes, but look it up when you have time. About
I'm going to put the name in the chat. What was the name?
Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain.
Joshua.
Let me do this.
Lawrence Chamberlain. Lain?
I believe so.
There. I just typed his name in. There.
Let me see real quick.
I'll look it up and see if I can find something.
Actually, there's actually public. I'm going to put this link in the private chat, Mrs. Take a look at it real quick while I'm going on with this, and let me make sure I put it in the private chat. I want you to look at it before we put it out there, because it's probably okay, but I just like to look at it. All right, folks. Well, after that nice little detour about medicine, but yes, seriously, feature. It's really Yes, he was amazing. He became, I think, governor of the state and president of Bowdoin College also. Sorpoop is roughly 2% of the population. As a percentage of today's, the toll would have been risen as high as 6 million. Absolutely. And then, not to mention, antiseptic measures were essentially non existent. Wounded would die of infection long after. Yes. I mean, battlefield medicine was very rudimentary back then. And I tell you, that's why I think Clara Barton was a founder of Red Cross. I think that she came in during the Civil War too, for comfort and, to attend to the soldiers. And Snortopupus, yep, featured in the movie of Gettysburg. Snortopupus, I think you and I can have a discussion on him just alone, because as I've gotten older, I've learned more things that there's people that kind of question his version of some things, but it's always interesting. And the whole Longstreet debate at Gettysburg, man, that can end up in some serious fights. Hey, we got 9 people with us still, and we're talking history. All right. Thank you, everybody. Make sure to follow us over on the YouTube, on the Twitch side, and, like and subscribe on the YouTube side. This is awesome. And we are getting closer to the end here, but let's go to Tupelo, Mississippi. Who has been in Tupelo, Mississippi? Well, I tell you what.
I have. I'm sorry, I was typing.
It's got the worst ass traffic in the world. It's worse, I think, sometimes than it is here. We would put 2 counties to sleep if they overheard us. Well, if it's Putnam County, they deserve to go to sleep. If it's Miami-Dade, they deserve to sleep. But Snortopupus, if you and I got together and talked and we had fun, let everybody go to sleep. That's all that counts. We'll have a drink and have fun with it. And the missus has shared that story there.
There are no. It just kind of says what happened. It's not real graphic.
No, it's not. So Snortopupus, you've not been to Tupelo? Well, guess how big this big battlefield is?
Is that the one?
That's the one. See, big field. You can see some stuff in the background. But 1 square city block.
It literally was 1 square city block.
Yep.
That was a battlefield I liked.
Hey, come on. Shiloh's. Oh man.
No.
Russell's Beef House? No, just kidding. But yeah, but it was like this is one of the ones that really had the overgrowth to the point where it's really nothing what it was. There's a Tupelo honey hut restaurant here. I've never been there. We'll go there right after the show, Geeky, if they're still open. But that was what was odd about this place. It was a battle. It was a Union win, like most of what happened in Mississippi. Though, let me go back a slide to what was interesting though with this. When we drove down from, let's see, I don't remember if it was the Tupelo, but when we came up here down to Vicksburg eventually, there was a Natchez Trail up there. If you ever get a chance to drive the Natchez Trail, that is nice country driving. They do have bathrooms periodically, so that's good. They even have walking cows on the road to greet you.
Oh, that's right.
Yes. We had a car flashing their lights at us from the other direction, and we're like, what's going on? And then there was a friendly cow up the road to greet us.
Yep. That was crazy.
Mrs., I do want to go back into Kentucky just near the end. I want you to relay a story, okay? It's one that, okay. But Tupelo we saw was 1 square block. What else is Tupelo famous for? The birthplace of the king of rock and roll. Hello. Hey. Yeah, thank you very much. Elvis Presley's birthplace. So guess what Dadman insisted the family do? They caused a riot.
To go through the parking
Damn it,
lot.
we're going to go visit Elvis Presley's birthplace. Yeah. So with the car in a roar, everybody bitching at me and stuff, and I had to say that because I lost control of everybody else. But they did not understand the genius of Dadman. The genius and cheapness of Dadman at the same time.
Yes, that was my thing. I didn't want to spend money to go see a little cabin that Elvis Presley
what we did,
recorded.
We drive into the parking lot. The missus roll down your window, take pictures as I'm driving, not stopping through the parking lot. We circle around, looking at all these people waiting to go in. We just circle around through the parking lot and drive right on to our next destination.
Yep.
So that's a
Yep.
brilliant of dad man to not one more. You know, people that know me know I push the limits. I got to do one more thing, one more thing.
Yep.
Eat
Yep.
one more sausage like we did at Epcot one year.
Yes.
Because I needed more food and didn't eat it. But, you know, but it's that one more thing. And it just was, but we got it in, made everybody, I got to do it. We didn't pay anything and we kept going.
Yep.
So, all right, Snortopoopas. I've driven the Natchez Trace Parkway. I had the infamous X and the Murburr along. So my ability to side trips was limited. I'm sorry. Well, so we'll have to do that too then.
Like I said, we're always adventuresome. I mean, we never know where we're going to go. Never.
Absolutely.
So we kind of have a starting point and a few in between points and then a destination, but we never know in between there where we're going.
Exactly. Well, see, I told you I'm brilliant and I'm cheap. All in one. You don't doubt me. Yes. But, you know, I do try to push too much in, you know, that I do understand that I do that. But, hey, life's too short. If you're going to go somewhere halfway across the country, get as much in as you can. Which then leads us to our last slide for the night, unfortunately, was at Vicksburg. We weren't able to find pictures yet of this one, but we will when it comes time we do it. One of the most interesting things with Vicksburg is that the modern battlefield is really shifted from the way the Mississippi runs today. If you look at the cliffs where most of the cannons oversaw the Mississippi River, the river has changed patterns through dredging and human efforts and just natural erosion and stuff.
That's right. I remember that.
Yeah. So where it's located, you're like, why would you put cannons here? Well, everything's changed over time.
Right.
And I read something where this park has had some serious damage in part of it, and parts of it are closed because of weather and erosion recently. So, and it's very sad if they lose a lot of that. The thing with Vicksburg was you had several 100,000 people in one small area surrounded by a Union force. And basically a lot of the residents went into cliff living because of nonstop bombardment from Union shells. And, you know, but the oddest thing is, I believe Snortopoopas, she was bored by history. More history, really, but it's Monticello. It's like taking my mother off to something. It was, you got to have a good travel buddy. You really do for a lot of these things. And I will say, my wife has been the best travel buddy any man could ever hope to be. This woman also went with me. Well, my mother-in-law went with us to Star Wars Celebration once and watched the kids overnight for us. My wife went with me to get in line to see George Lucas at 2:30 in the morning to try to get in the auditorium where he was. She got there 2:30 in the morning, slept on the hard concrete.
Well, we had to keep our spot.
Yeah, well, I tried to stay awake, but she did all that when we got in there. This is how the efforts this lady has taken for me over the years, and you can't say enough.
It's been fun. It's been fun.
Absolutely. So, but to Snortopoopas' point earlier with Vicksburg, if you go there, you'd be shocked how small the size of it. You're like, how can 100,000 troops be in this small space? I think the battlefield was probably wider than the park, deeper than the park. There had to be, but the lines were very close. In some cases, they were 10 yards away from each other. I mean, we talked about the crater at Petersburg. This one had their version of the crater over near the Louisiana Redoubt. Same thing was tried, but same results. You blow a hole in the ground, you get a big hole. You don't go through it, you go around it. So, which defeats the purpose of blowing a hole in it. So, you know, it was very interesting. And Vicksburg really is a series of different battles. You'll see Champions Hill mentioned. That was the last big engagement where the Confederates lost and pulled back into Vicksburg to surrender. That last time when we were there was still privately held. You know, and some of this stuff is the privately held still, and some are government held. I know there's battlefield trust organizations that work to preserve land and stuff. And that are very, very active. And maybe in the future I'll post a couple of those links to some of those sites, because they do a lot of good work and they do a lot of good information on the battles themselves. So, um, before we recap what we did not include, Mrs., remember our trips into Kentucky? You remember that
Yeah,
one time with that one road? I'm going to try to.
with the car accident one
Yep,
where we went to the
yep,
where
yep.
we kept
Hold on, let me
driving.
let me find my map. Let me find my map. I think we were going up to here. Yeah, up here and big good old. Let me get up in here. And it
Okay.
probably was over here towards. I think it's probably going up 75 up into towards Richmond.
So this is where we took the detour, that one?
Yes, the detour.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. So there was an accident on the interstate, which apparently happens all the time up there. So we were going to take a detour. Um, and we did not have our smartphones. We had actually a GPS. And this GPS I think sometimes during this trip literally took us to the middle of nowhere, was going to take us to nowhere. So we were a little nervous about having to use the GPS, but the traffic was totally backed up. So
When she
so
says nowhere, she means like nowhere, like off the road into the hills.
yeah, it was truly it was yeah. So we said, okay, we're gonna try this. We had paper maps too, and so we go take a detour, and as we're driving, it's getting more and more desolate. And there's like it's just and at some point it became like a one-way road, and there was the mountain was we were literally on the edge of a mountain, and I could look down the side and see down the mountain. And we're driving, and I'm just patting Dadman's back going, "You're doing good, you're doing good." And going and telling him where the next thing the GPS tells us to turn at. And as I go, okay, in 3 miles, we're gonna turn left. And I'm praying, literally praying, "Dear Lord, please let there be a left turn in 3 miles. Please let the GPS be right." And the kids in the back are going, "Is everything okay?" I say, "Oh yeah, everything's fine." And I'm looking down the side of a cliff, and then we see signs about flash flood zones, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh." And then at some point a car comes the other direction, and they don't slow down, so they must be a native. And we're like, "Oh my gosh, I just knew we were going to die." And as we keep going, I start hearing banjos playing, and I'm like so afraid, so nervous and everything, but I'm just patting his back and saying, "You're doing good, you're doing good." And so it has us turn a couple times and this or that, and we see somebody and we ask him for directions, and they go, "I'm sorry, I'm new here, I get lost all the time too." And I'm thinking, "Oh great, okay." So we keep driving, and eventually we see it becomes like a two-lane road, and the most faintest of faintest center yellow lines I have ever seen. And I was so happy I was almost in tears. And so I'm like, we're closer to civilization. There's a yellow line in the middle of the road. And so we drive down this road, and eventually we get to, is it Katie
Sadieville, Kentucky.
Sadieville, Kentucky. And
Almost
there
a
is, and
flashing
there's
light and a pink building.
exactly, to say that it wasn't even a traffic light. It was a flashing light. It was a one flashing light town.
And it had a
But
train trestle, so there were
but
trains out there too.
exactly, but we went, and there was a train track, and I said, "Okay, oh, thank there's a train track. We can follow the train track, and eventually we'll find civilization." And oh, we did. It was uh, that was one of our adventures that we talk about, that we do happens every time we go on a,
And whenever
a
you
trip.
think I doubt you, remember that thing, because I trusted you
He did,
completely on
but he did,
that
because
one.
I'm just sitting there saying, "You're doing a good job." And it was so nerve wracking, him driving, because not knowing, you know, really where the hell we were at, and if
Mhm.
the GPS was actually taking us somewhere correctly,
Yeah.
um,
After
and
that, because that earlier one took us way off to something that we finally
yeah,
stopped and turned back. It was crazy.
yeah, it was insane. So
But I
it
think this was a drive too. We also ran into more cows. on the road.
Yeah, probably. We were truly in the back hills of Kentucky. Um,
Well, Sword Poopa
yeah.
says when you see the cabins, pumpkin hats, and squirrel rifles, you go too far.
Well, like I say, I almost thought we heard the banjo music,
I know.
and I was getting a little nervous.
Man, I tell you, that sounds like a good trip of big things you had there, Snort Poopas. Yeah, exactly. Those are big ones. So, yeah, I wanted you to share that real quick because that's one of that we've had
That's how our
stories
trips
like
are.
that. That's what our adventures have been. It is the more fun is just randomness. Well, one of the places we have not talked about was Fort Sumter that we have
Mm.
visited. Remember that trip? That was we were in Tennessee that the night before.
Oh
I
yeah,
was trying to get you to go to the Biltmore crap. You know, you said you'd been there, and I didn't think so. So we went to Fort Sumter on a whim. Well, we're calling trying to find a hotel
oh gosh.
the night in the car. We could only find one with take 4 people, and we fudged that. I mean, it
We
was
had
good.
5 people with us, and
Yeah,
nobody would give us
right.
a room for 4 for 5 people. So finally, we just called and said we had 4 people because we
Fortunately, we had
needed to
my
get around.
mother's handicap pass, so we had a parking space because there were no parking spaces other than that. And the missus had to play AC repairman by kicking the crap out of the damn AC
The
unit.
front of the AC
It
unit
falls
fell
off.
off. It fell off, and so I stuck it back on. I'm like, "Oh, shit." They're gonna say we broke this. So I
And it,
stick it and it wasn't working. So I
but you
stick
got it.
it back up there, and I kicked it, and then it started working.
Then, of course, my mother decides to take a shower that night, and apparently they only had like a hand.
There were no
And
towels.
then
They
she
had
nearly
no
fell in the damn shower. She nearly fell in the shower. It's like, of all
The
the
kids
hotels,
had the kids had to sleep on the floor, and it was so nasty. We're, like, piling up blankets and stuff so that it was awful. It
oh
was just
gosh.
awful.
But we enjoyed Fort Sumter the next day.
Yeah, Sumter was nice.
Oh man, yeah. Well, at least they enjoyed something. I
I've
mean,
been to Biltmore, and I enjoyed it, but I don't ever have to go there again.
yeah. And the Murber was born near Burnside, Kentucky, in Pulaski County. Oh wow. I wondered a connection with Pulaski down in the fort, because Jess had talked about Illinois, the Pulaski Memorial. So that's it's really neat. You see how history connects. Like I mentioned with McClaw's earlier, they're talking about Pulaski. I mean, just so much of this stuff. It's just fun how a lot of this stuff, ends up relating to each other. So, and we'll recall more travels and things like that as we do some of these. Yeah, Snort says, yeah, same Pulaski. That is, it's not a common
Snorter
name.
Poopus, I will say something. Sometimes, having gone to fort after fort after fort, I have said to Dadman that, I'm gonna sit in the welcome center and he can go explore
Yeah,
because it's too hot, I'm too tired. I have never stopped him from going to a fort, but I have not always participated in, all the
let me say
battlefield stuff.
let me say hi to Cavitator Calhoun Che. Hey man, good to see you
Hey.
here. Hey, glad you got to pop in, and that would be neat if somebody did that.
Oh,
Pop in the. But it also you said that you remember first day at Fort Stevens, you were with your family going kayaking and stuff, and I went over to the fort by myself to investigate and
mhm.
do some stuff. Had a lot of football conversations with some friends of mine, but good friends of mine, which kind of helped pass the time. But I got the intel on the trip we went over the next day to get more pictures. So,
Yes,
but
yes.
absolutely glad you're here, Jay. Appreciate it. And anybody that's new to the channel, make sure you leave a like and make sure subscribe. Help us get to 100 because I promised a 24-hour stream. We get to 100. So, but if we don't do, we do. If we don't, we don't. We got 9 people still here, and I've been looking at we've held. Thank y'all for spending this evening with us. Thank you for
Oh, it's been
listening to
fun.
us, and hopefully we've given you some entertainment, some fun stories, and some interesting information. And like I said, that this a lot of this is a precursor of things to come. Did you want to say something else, Mrs.?
No. not really. I just want to thank everybody for coming by. Are
Yeah,
we wrapping up?
we're going to go ahead and wrap up, but
Okay.
I'm going to kind of
Yeah.
pitch. But I was wanting to make sure you had said something to
No,
anybody.
this has been fun. It's been fun reading the chat. It's yeah, we don't always get to share these crazy, wacky adventures that we have. Um, yeah, that's
Yep.
they're just some of them are just wacky. Um, and we just have a fun time, and I'm so glad we can share.
Yeah.
And you guys have stayed to listen to some of our silly exploits and some of our neat stuff that we've seen
Well,
with these battlefields and things.
mhm.
And I am not a big history buff. I forget a lot. I know some of the big stuff, but I don't know a lot of specifics. And so it's very interesting to listen to Dadman talk about it. He is a history buff and really enjoys it. And so I kind of would just go along and go, "Oh, look, it looks like a hobbit house," and be
Yes.
happy. So I thank him for
Yeah.
letting me tag along my non-history self.
Well, thank you for going with me as you put up with so many things, and I will tell you, and hopefully, Che, you're around for her description of the travel, the country road travel in Kentucky. I will tell everybody, being on the other side of it, I was starting to think I was going to end up pooping some bricks at one point, because it was like that road was getting awfully dang narrow, and that it was like, where's the next? Where's the next? Where's the
Yep.
turn? Where's the turn? It was like,
Yep.
and she's like, they're there. It was hilarious. And when you travel, what's really neat up in Tennessee, Kentucky a lot is everybody's got a cemetery, especially every church does. It's really interesting to see. If you like cemeteries and silos,
Oh
there's a
yeah.
lot to see, because Mrs. had a collection of silos. If we can find those too one time.
Yeah.
But hey, well, hopefully you got to see that. Che, again, glad you're here. Snorpupus, yes. Burnside was named for yeah. Hence we got the name Sideburns nowadays. Dadman and I ever take a trip, the missus had to put trackers on us. Damn straight. We're going to get
Hey,
lost.
I probably would be right along there with you. I might be a little grumpy if I get tired, but I'll be there chugging along.
Hey, you have no problem sleeping in the car.
No, I don't. No, I don't. I can sleep anywhere.
I like sleeping in the car and letting you drive. You know that.
Yes.
Especially in Birmingham.
Oh. We won't talk about Birmingham.
No. Oh, that's too funny. But listen, folks, what I said earlier was, here's a list of big things that we did not get to tonight that we have visited: Fort Sumter, Chickamauga, Chattanooga / the Battle of Lookout Mountain, Mill Springs, which is in Kentucky, which is not even on this map for some reason, but was not a small engagement, Bryce's Crossroads, Mississippi. That was probably one of the most out of the way by accidents things, where Nathan Bedford Forrest defeated a larger Union force in the middle of nowhere, Mississippi, that we just happened to stumble upon. That was a complete accident that we did with that. So, we just go wherever we go. And Che says, "Oh man, one of my first details in the Army, raking leaves at a cemetery."
Or at least hopefully you didn't have to do it at night.
Yeah. Yes, Chattanooga, breathtaking. We do have the pictures of that. That's one that we'll have to see for people that may not have ever been there. It is amazing. Unfortunately, Snorpupus, when I was a kid, my dad drove it. The last time I went, I had to drive, and I almost wrecked the van. I took the curve coming down at like 40 miles an hour. I don't know if you remember that.
I try to forget some of that stuff.
So, but it's awesome. It's Lookout Park up there at the top of the mountain. It's just, that's another battle. You look at how the Union broke out and took a higher enemy at a higher terrain position, against all odds. It just, the feats that happened in the war were just amazing, and a lot of individual actions and a lot of bravery. There also was cowardice. There's also things that were not so, glorious, and, but in terms of battlefields, just from the beauty of looking at them, these are just fascinating places. And let me, as we go out, let me go back to, the first slide that we had. But thank you again, everybody that was here tonight. thank you those that are lurking. It means more than you ever know, that just knowing that y'all are there, and hopefully it's an escape from the day and you learn some things and just have some fun with us. Um, but as I mentioned here too, is we got the east, the west. What we have done mostly as a family and what we've seen tonight is really up the Mississippi, Tennessee, Kentucky, the Western Theater, which, as I mentioned, had less encroachment generally than the Eastern battlefields, which are like from Atlanta up to Virginia here. So it truly is. If you ever, I've had the good fortune to do both. My kids got to see the Western. Not many people get to see the Western because of the mileage and stuff and the distance between sites. But hopefully it works out. Hopefully you can do it. Snore Poopa said, deal with X. Look out part for me and Ruby Falls for her. That's fair trade. That was a fair trade. And somewhere in Fort Knox, yes, it was during the daytime. Yes, there you go. Good. That's awesome.
Well, at least I don't know. I have always had this superstition that you hold your breath when you pass by a cemetery. And I still find myself doing that at times now as an adult. I'd probably die if I had to clean a cemetery because I would be holding my breath subconsciously. That's all I can think of when I think of cemeteries.
Absolutely. So, well, I think with that will be it for tonight.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to thank everybody for coming and listening to us and our stories and some about the Civil Wars. Like Dadman said, we will be doing some more in-depth, more specific forts and things with pictures and stories and history, and future detours, probably starting in around February. And we just appreciate you all and we love you all. And we're just so grateful that you're here, whether you chatted or you just lurked. I personally thank you all. And I thank you for supporting my husband in this endeavor that he's doing. It was a big step out for him. And I'm so proud of him, of what he's done. And I just keep it going. I love you, and I will be here supporting you in the years to come.
Absolutely, thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you for those glowing words, and thank you very much. And I agree with you, Snore Poopas, that I get excited by history too. I think there's a lot that we can learn, and we can have a lot of fun with history too. I think, unfortunately, history gets a bad rap. People prejudge it and think it's all boring and this, that, and the other. And it can be a lot of fun. I mean, just going to these places, learning about it. And there's a lot of odds and ends and crazy things that happen. There are a lot of stories. I mean, like I mentioned about the surrender at Fort Donelson. I mean, when you read behind what happened, you kind of laugh and can kind of look at it. Which then again, Simon Bolivar Buckner Jr. Was the Confederate general forced to surrender. He appeared many other times in the war, but his son, Simon Bolivar Buckner, that's Simon Bolivar Buckner. Simon Bolivar Buckner Jr. is his son, who was a general in World War II, who was killed, I believe, at Iwo Jima or Okinawa. I can't remember the battle, but he became the highest U.S. general killed in World War II because they saw his flag car up there on a high elevation scouting around. And before anybody could tell him, we get that damn car out of sight, they had shelled the position. So, sorry. That stuff gets stuck in my head and it comes out. I'm sorry. I know it was a detour, but I love history too, Snore Poopas. And Castle, you rock. You're the yes. Lordship with the credit card. And we're going to Russell's Beef House, thanks to him. So, on that note, before I get long-winded again and get started on something else, and like I said, my last point was, think of the battlefields we did not talk about. There's at least 8 or 9 that are on this map that we did not talk about. So, hey, awesome, wonderful. Mrs., thank you so much for being here with me.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Thank you for confirming that. I knew you would. I thought it was. I thought it was Okinawa, but yeah, it was it just, that's the thing about history. There's all these connections and time that can do if you just take the time to get into it. So, and Geeky loves going to Okinawa. So, hey, I've never been there. The missus wants to go visit family over there. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, hey, maybe one day. But on that
Maybe.
note, on the long-winded dad man outro, that usually happens.
Sorry.
I the problem is I'd like to thank everybody personally, but it's so hard because of that we've gone 2 hours and that everybody's there. So just thank you each and every one of y'all who've been in, who've come through. Uh, your support means the world to me. I look at y'all as family here. Y'all help me go. Your actions in the chat help make for a better stream, and hopefully I'm getting a little bit better with this compared to my first streams. And the chat's grown, and you guys rock. Castle, you guys in the chat rock too, because without you guys, it's just me sitting here babbling like some guy, which I do anyway, but you guys make it fun. So on that wonderful note, thank you each and every one of you. Have a good night, good morning. Oh wait, I got to tease something. There seems like something else is coming up. What's today? The 20th.
On the
Uh,
29th.
the 29th, yes, the 29th, we'll be back to college football with my college football playoff special, which will be the national championship games. The playoffs to the national championship game. We'll look at Georgia versus the Ohio State University, and we will be looking at Michigan and Texas Christian University scheduled to play in the Peach Bowl and the Verbo Fiesta Bowl. So that is our next stream. Look for some Fortnite streams coming up too, because I will be getting back to a little bit of the gaming and maybe some chill streams. Maybe not so heavy planned for this for the month of January because of work commitments and some other things, but definitely want to be around. And you guys rock. You guys are awesome. And good night, Geeky. Good night. Y'all rock. All y'all rock. Yes. Everybody, all y'all rock. So, all right. Well, and take care of a human, mouse, and duck. And they love you, Mrs. Dadman. Yes. That's awesome. All righty. And thank you. Love you all. As the missus said. On that note, y'all have a good, wonderful day, night, morning, wherever it is you are. And, have a great rest of the week. And if I don't see or talk to you before the 25th, then have a very Merry Christmas and a blessed holidays. And on that, I will say, go back if you haven't. Look at our show last Wednesday night with Squeak a Mouse, a 2.5-hour riot of one of the best shows we've ever had. Looking at Christmas stuff, it was a riot. Go look at that. And last Sunday, did news stories and Christmas memes with the wonderful Purple Valkyrie. That was a wonderful 1.5-hour chill stream that I thought I was going to lose her at one point, and Mark D and the C just disappeared on us. We were laughing so hard it was crazy. So go watch those things. Support the channel. Love you guys. Good night. God bless, and y'all have a good one. Take care.
Bye.